Much like The Unquiet Dead, the Shakespeare Code gives another scenario where there's a famous historical character and a supernatural element related to their key point in history. And that's all you really need. You can easily fill the gaps with just saying the phrase, William Shakespeare faces against witches. But for the sake of this review, here's the actual plot of the episode. Following on from Smith and Jones, the Doctor takes now companion Martha Jones to 1599 London, to meet the playwright himself, William Shakespeare, played by Dean Lennox Kelly. He is tricked into writing the forgotten play Love's Labour's Won by a group of witches known as the Carrier Knights. The witches are planning to use Shakespeare's power of words to open a portal to set their sisters free. With Series 1 we had Charles Dickens and ghosts, here we have Shakespeare and witches. But unlike The Unquiet Dead, the Shakespeare Code manages to be about a key moment in history relating to Shakespeare, that being his missing play, Love's Labour's Won. Now, I'm not saying the events in the episode actually happened, like I'm pretty sure there were some moments like the stuff with the curator of the theatre possibly being a tiny bit off the timeline, but the way they managed to put in the supernatural stuff to explain the reasons behind the key moment in history, like why is the play missing, why is the Globe Theatre meant to be structured the way it is, or why has no one ever heard of this actual play, is actually kinda clever. London 1599 is executed pretty accurately. You can really feel the claustrophobic atmosphere within the Tudor streets, mixed with the dry and wet hay covering the floors and puddles. And you can really feel the wide open space within the theatre during rehearsals and the crowded audience during the plays. And yeah, you can even feel the grim atmosphere with the darkly lit scenes with Bedlam and All Hallows Street. For a start-up adventure for Martha Jones, it's a pretty breezy watch. I do like how the episode has fun with her overthinking over the mechanics of time travel. Like, is she allowed to walk on past soil, or touch anything, or would her skin color be an issue in the time period? It's clear she is thinking this through before going ahead with anything. I like that. But throughout the episode, she still carries what she is known for, being a trainee doctor. She checks for any heart signs whenever a witch's victim gets possessed or killed, and she even helps the Doctor beat his hearts back. However, it is quite possible the writer Gareth Roberts did not know how to write for Martha, or how she seems to be overly in a possible attraction towards Shakespeare, having no knowledge of the biggest insane asylum hospital in history, being a little weak when standing up to the witches, and possibly trying to sleep with the Doctor. But Freema Agyeman still plays the part really well that it doesn't actually become a massive problem. I still like the character. Despite not fully looking like the actual guy, Dean Lennox Kelly does surprisingly play the playwright pretty well. Much like with Queen Victoria, instead of having him approached as a straight-up boring, stuffy playwright, he's portrayed like a rock star of the time. I could easily buy this as a Shakespeare at an early stage of his career. I mean, the episode does end with the Doctor letting Shakespeare wear the ruff. I do kind of like how he manages to work out the Doctor and Martha are not actually from this time period, how he uses his words to analyze both the Doctor's youthful look, yet eyes of someone so old. That's fab writing. But okay, his affectionate words towards Martha might be a little iffy at times. There are even some references relating to Shakespeare and his work hidden throughout the episode. The skull referenced for Hamlet is used as a candlestick, certain quotes or names of characters from his plays are mentioned throughout the episode, the witches obviously being a key characters for Macbeth, the prologue which features a balcony scene with a song, which I think was meant to be a reference to Romeo and Juliet, and weirdly enough, I think possibly a prediction of the 7th Harry Potter book. The Carrier Knights are a lot of fun, especially Christina Cole, who carries the lines given to her with such grace and sadistic pleasure. I love how she manages to change her voice and appearance whenever she's in a different form, from the low-brow servant maid, the straight upper-class lady, and the croaky old witch. While they do actually clarify they are technically aliens, the writing still manages to have fun with having the idea of witches as our villains. They fly on broomsticks, speak in rhyme, make potions, cast spells on cauldrons, have a crystal ball, but they also have a nice touch of creepier witchcrafts like voodoo dolls and puppetry. That stuff with the man drowning in thin air, that's simple but effective creepy stuff. One of them is even called Doomfinger, and she actually uses a Doomfinger to kill someone. That's fantastic. Just as a side note, is the leader of the witch being the youngest looking a Hocus Pocus reference, or is that a reference to Stardust? I'm curious. One thing I found pretty clever to tie into Shakespeare is the power of words. How words could be used to tell a story, cast a spell, make a point, send a message, or even break a curse. Words that change the world. Which then gives a pretty fun and ambitious climax, with the actors projecting their words as loud as possible in front of the biggest wind machine. It's a fun climax with a pretty funny ending with Queen Elizabeth I. So surprisingly, I actually liked this episode a little more than I thought I was going to. However, that's not to say it's perfect all the way through, mainly due to how certain aspects have aged, like some people using certain words or slang or phrases, and there are a couple of pervy moments. But they don't really ruin the story for me. The actors look like they are all having fun. The CG looks pretty good most of the time. The design and production look of Tudor London brings out the grim and dirty atmosphere of the time period brilliantly well, and the dialogue is very well written, which does manage to make the full supernatural and real-life occurrences make sense in this world. It's a fun magic show, with just the right words to say.